My future son-in-law asked about our orchard boundaries 6 times in 4 visits. I told myself he was just a city boy curious about country life. At the rehearsal dinner, my daughter grabbed my wrist under the table and whispered, "Mom, don't let me marry him." That morning, she had tucked a folded note inside my coat pocket. 4 words. "Mom, he's not real." The next afternoon, I stood before 130 guests at my daughter's wedding in the Okanagan Valley. I had proof in my hands and a choice to make. Let him walk away quietly, or show every person in that tent who he really was. I chose the truth. Thank you for being here. If stories about family protection, courage, and justice speak to you, please like and subscribe. It helps us bring more stories like this one. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Disclaimer: names, places, and certain details have been fictionalized for storytelling purposes. The themes of elder financial abuse and family protection are, unfortunately, very real across Canada and beyond. My son-in-law asked about the property line again on a Sunday afternoon in June. I caught it in the way he paused, his coffee mug halfway to his mouth, his eyes drifting past the kitchen window toward the rows of cherry trees where our 90 acres ended and Crown land began. "So where exactly does your property stop, Helen?" His voice had that easy tone people use when they want a question to sound like small talk. 6 times, 4 visits over 2 months, and every single time, my daughter's fiancé found a way to ask about boundaries, where the orchard started, where it ended, what the neighbors owned, how close we were to the new highway expansion. The first time, I had chalked it up to curiosity. He was from Toronto. People from the GTA don't always understand how land works in the interior. But 28 years running the nursing unit at Kelowna General had taught me to read people the way you read a chart. Subtle changes, patterns that repeat. Something off in the vitals. And this man's pattern was starting to feel like a patient who keeps insisting nothing hurts while guarding one side of his body. "Just past the Macintosh rows," I said, keeping my voice light, "the creek and the old fence line." He nodded, hazel eyes still tracking the valley. At 34, he looked like he had walked out of a Bay Street recruitment ad. Tailored chinos, a linen shirt that probably cost more than my hydro bill, a watch that caught the afternoon light through the window. Handsome in that deliberate way some men achieve, dark hair styled just so, and a smile calibrated to show exactly the right amount of warmth. "Gorgeous property," he said. "Must be worth a fortune this close to town, with the wine country boom and everything." There it was, the question underneath the question. "It's home," I said simply. My daughter appeared from the hallway, radiant the way women get when they are freshly in love and still believe the world is kind. She had inherited her father's dark eyes and my stubborn jaw, though right now that jaw was lifted in her fiancé's defense. "Mom, stop grilling him. He's just interested in the orchard. You know how city people are around fruit trees. City Pete. With bice." With 8 years in Toronto working as a veterinarian, had apparently scrubbed the Okanagan dust from her memory. I smiled at her and swallowed the unease that had been building in my chest like smoke before a wildfire. Maybe I was being ridiculous. Maybe he really was just curious about rural life. Maybe 4 years, as a widow, had turned me suspicious of any man who paid attention to my only child. But my husband's voice echoed in the back of my mind. Gone 4 years now, taken by a stroke at 61 while reviewing blueprints at his desk. "Trust your gut, Helen," he used to say when I came home from the hospital frustrated by a colleague's behavior, especially about people who smile too much. My gut was screaming. That evening, after they drove away in his leased Audi, I sat in my husband's study surrounded by rolled blueprints and engineering awards he would never see hung on a wall. 4 years, and I still could not clear his desk. His reading glasses sat where he had left them, beside a mug that said "World's Best Engineer," a Father's Day gift from our daughter when she was 9. I pulled out my phone. Patricia had been my husband's lawyer for 20 years. She had handled his estate when he died, navigated the complexities of his engineering firm, his patents, the shareholders, with a patience I had not deserved through my grief. More than a lawyer, she had been his trusted friend. If anyone could tell me whether I was a paranoid widow or a mother with good reason to worry, it was Patricia. I found her number. My thumb hovered. If I was wrong, my daughter would never forgive me for doubting the man she loved. But if I was right, I pressed call before I could talk myself out of it. Patricia answered on the second ring with that sharp clarity that made her one of the best estate lawyers in the valley. "Helen," she said, "I was just thinking about you. I need to talk about my daughter's fiancé," I said. "It might be nothing." "Tell me everything," she said. I explained the questions, 6 times in 4 visits, asking where our land ended, how close we were to the new development corridor, whether we had ever had the property appraised, the way his eyes catalogued rooms when he thought nobody was watching, as if he were mentally pricing the furniture. "He keeps circling back to finances," I said. "Estate planning, long-term security. My daughter says it is because he works in wealth management and cannot help himself." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "How long have they been together?" 7 months. Engaged after 4. That's fast. Relief hit me like cold water. Someone else had noticed. "Let me look into this," Patricia said. "Background check, professional networks, court records. Give me 72 hours. And Helen, don't sign anything he suggests. Don't share financial documents. Act completely normal. What if you find something? Then we deal with it. You are not alone. Robert would want someone watching out for you and your daughter." My husband's name made my throat tighten. After we hung up, I opened the bottom desk drawer where I kept important documents. The property deed sat on top. 90 acres, purchased in 1999 for $180,000. Back then it was scrubland with a half-dead orchard and a view. My husband had seen the potential. "Land is the one thing they stop making," he had said. "We are buying the Okanagan itself." He had been right. Kelowna had exploded in the last decade. Wine tourism. Retirees fleeing Vancouver prices, tech workers going remote. The realtor who called last spring estimated our property at $6.8 million, but the orchard was only part of my husband's legacy. I flipped open the estate folder Patricia had prepared after he died. The numbers hit me all over again. Total estate value, $12.2 million. The property accounted for $6.8. The rest came from 40 years of work. He had sold his engineering consultancy 3 years before he died for $2.4 million. His patents on seismic-resistant foundation systems still generated over $200,000 a year in licensing fees from firms across Canada. His investment portfolio, managed through a conservative fund in Vancouver, held $3.1 million. Life insurance had added $400,000. My pension and his residual income brought in roughly $260,000 annually. I lived on $60. The rest compounded. We had never lived as though we had money. My husband drove the same pickup for 12 years. I bought my winter coat at Mark's. My daughter grew up at Value Village. Never lacking, but never showy. "Money makes people act ugly," my husband used to say. He had watched his own sister stop speaking to their parents over an inheritance dispute involving $40,000. The minute people know what you have, they start calculating. Better to live quietly. So, we had. Old truck, practical boots, no trips to Europe, just the land, the orchard, and the life we had built together. And now someone was circling it. Someone who smiled too much and asked too many questions. And he had no idea what he was actually circling. Public records showed our acreage and maybe hinted at 4 or 5 million. But the patents, the consultancy sale, the portfolio, those were private. Our modest life hid the rest, exactly as my husband had intended. Patricia called on Wednesday morning. "Helen," her voice carried a weight I had only heard once before, when my husband's will had been challenged by a distant cousin. "Can you come to my office? This is not a phone conversation." I was in her office within the hour. She closed the door and drew the blinds. The folder she slid across the desk was thick. "He has done this before," she said, "twice that I can confirm." The room tilted. Patricia opened the folder. Megan Fong, 29. Daughter of a commercial real estate developer in Calgary. He dated her for 5 months in 2022. Engaged that spring. She pushed a printed photo toward me. A young woman smiling at a restaurant, his arm draped around her shoulders. The same warm smile he gave my daughter. The engagement ended 3 weeks after he attended a family meeting about the Fong estate. Megan's mother had passed from cancer the year before. He asked extremely specific questions about property transfers and inheritance law. Then he vanished. The family paid him $150,000 to disappear and sign a non-disclosure agreement. My hands shook. You said twice. Patricia pulled another photo. Alyssa Drummond, 30, daughter of a retired mining executive in Sudbury. He dated her 4 months in 2023, proposed in September. Same pattern. Alyssa's father had early-stage Alzheimer's. He was updating his estate plan. 3 weeks after the engagement, gone. The Drummond family paid $225,000. These families don't sue, Patricia said, because they cannot prove criminal intent. He never touches money directly. He just gathers information, attends meetings, asks questions, then leaves. Breaking an engagement is not a crime. He is a professional. Both targets had lost a parent or had a parent who was incapacitated, Patricia continued. Both families were wealthy but lived modestly. Your husband died 4 years ago. Your daughter lost her father. He saw the vulnerability. I thought of my daughter laughing at his jokes, defending his curiosity, planning flower arrangements for a September wedding. What do we do? Patricia handed me a business card. James Carruthers, private investigator, former RCMP, 15 years in the Integrated Proceeds of Crime Unit. Discreet, thorough, expensive. I didn't hesitate. Hire him today. James arrived on a Tuesday in a sedan so ordinary I forgot the color the moment he stepped out. Mid-50s, lean, with the kind of stillness that comes from decades of watching people who do not want to be watched. He moved through my kitchen like he was reading a crime scene, noting sight lines, traffic flow, the window where my son-in-law always stood staring at the orchard. I am going to install 4 cameras, he said. Kitchen, living room, front entry, study. Motion activated, encrypted, fully lawful under BC's privacy legislation. Patricia cleared it. The cameras disappeared into the house. Behind a mason jar, inside a smoke detector, tucked between my husband's old engineering manuals. You will not see them, James said, but they will catch everything. 2 days later, he was back at my table with files, printouts, screenshots. His real name is Derek Allen Price, James said. The name landed like a stone in still water. He has an outstanding warrant in British Columbia for fraud. Charges were laid in 2019 after he ran an investment scheme in Victoria that bilked 3 seniors out of nearly $400,000 combined. He posted bail and vanished. Legal name change filed in Ontario that same year. He became the man your daughter knows. James spread documents across the table, but here is where it gets personal. He opened a folder marked Price Construction Limited, Bankruptcy 2009. Inside was a photograph of a man in his 50s standing in front of a half-finished commercial building. The caption, Allen Price Sr., owner, Price Construction. In 2008, your husband's firm competed with Price Construction for the contract to design and build the new Civic Center in Kamloops, James said. Your husband won. Price's company, already in trouble, could not absorb the loss. They declared bankruptcy. I remembered. My husband had mentioned the competing bid, but never the name. It was business. The recession did not help. Then James handed me an obituary. Allen Price Sr., 54, of Kamloops, BC, passed away March 2010. He died by suicide, James said quietly. Left a note blaming your husband for destroying his livelihood and his family. His son was 16. I could not breathe. My husband didn't destroy him, I said. He submitted a better bid. That is all. I know, James said gently. But a 16-year-old boy watching his father spiral and then die does not process things rationally. That anger does not fade. It finds a target. My daughter. He is not just after the money, I said. No. James closed the file. He wants to dismantle everything your husband built. The legacy, the land, the family, and he is willing to use your daughter to do it. The next blow came that evening. Dr. Nadia Singh, my family physician for 9 years, called after hours. Helen, she said carefully, I need to tell you something about your daughter's fiancé. He came to see me last Monday. He said he was concerned about you. Concerned about what? He said you had been repeating yourself, forgetting conversations, getting confused. Her voice hardened. Helen, I have been your doctor for nearly a decade. You are sharper than most people half your age. There is nothing wrong with your cognition. Then why would he say there was? because he asked very specific questions afterward. Early signs of dementia, which medications impair judgment, how competency assessments work in British Columbia, what is required to obtain a legal designation of incapability under the Patients Property Act. My blood went cold. He asked about sedatives, she continued. Zopiclone specifically, dosages, how long it stays in the system, whether it is detectable in routine blood work. He was not asking as a concerned family member. He was researching. I thought of every cup of tea he had made me, every glass of water he had poured. Always so helpful in the kitchen. You think he was planning to drug me, I said. I think he was planning to make you appear incompetent, Dr. Singh said. If you seemed confused and disoriented repeatedly, and someone documented it, he could apply to the court for committeeship over your finances and your person. I have seen it before. My mother was a victim of elder abuse in Punjab before we came to Canada. It is why I went into family medicine, and why I am calling you now. After she hung up, I stared at the glass of water sitting on my husband's desk. I had poured it an hour earlier. I picked it up and emptied it into the sink. Over the next 3 weeks, we built the case. James upgraded the cameras. Patricia prepared legal documentation. Dr. Singh stood ready with lab resources. We set the trap for September 2nd, 12 days before the wedding. I invited him to dinner, just the two of us. He arrived at 6 with flowers and that rehearsed smile. We talked about the wedding, the caterer, the seating chart. Then, exactly as I expected, he circled back. Have you given any thought to updating your estate plan, Helen? My daughter mentioned you haven't touched anything since Robert passed. I would be happy to connect you with a sharp wealth management team in Toronto. Patricia handles everything, I said lightly. Thank you, though. Something flickered behind his eyes. At 7:15, I stood and pressed my hand to my temple. Terrible headache. Must be the wedding stress. I filled a glass of water, set it on the counter, and told him I was going upstairs to lie down. Then I crept to the upstairs hallway and opened the tablet James had given me. 3 camera angles. Crystal clear. He sat still for 6 seconds. Then he stood, walked to the bottom of the stairs, listened. Came back to the kitchen. Reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small prescription bottle. He moved like he had practiced this many times. Shook a tablet into his palm, found a spoon from the back of the drawer, crushed the pill on the counter into fine powder, picked up my glass and tipped the powder in, stirred, wiped the spoon with a paper towel, returned the bottle to his pocket. 51 seconds. When I came back downstairs, he handed me the glass with a smile full of false tenderness. Drink this. Hydration helps with headaches. I took the glass. My phone, programmed to ring at exactly this moment, buzzed on the counter. Oh, that is my daughter calling. Excuse me. I turned my back, wrapped the glass in a clean dish towel to preserve his fingerprints, and poured the contents into a sterile specimen jar James had left in the cabinet. The glass went into a Ziploc bag, towel and all. Chain of custody intact. Nothing down the drain, nothing lost. When I turned back, his eyes were on me. For half a second, his expression went flat, the mask slipping. Then the warmth returned. I should let you rest, he said. Big days ahead. James collected the evidence 30 seconds after he left. The next morning, Dr. Singh called with lab results. Zopiclone, she said, 7.5 milligrams. For someone your age, that could cause significant confusion, impaired balance, memory gaps. If administered repeatedly and documented, it would support an application for committeeship. We had proof, video, lab results, his fingerprints on the glass, his real identity, his criminal record. 2 prior victims, a motive rooted in 14 years of rage. The question was how to use it. We met in Patricia's office on September 5th. Me, Patricia, James, Dr. Singh, and Corporal Anne-Marie Bouchard of the Kelowna RCMP detachment. We have enough to arrest him tonight, Corporal Bouchard said. Fraud, identity offenses under the criminal code, attempted administration of a noxious substance, the outstanding warrant from Victoria. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. We do it at the wedding. If we arrest him quietly, my daughter will spend the rest of her life wondering whether we were wrong. She will defend him. She might blame me. But if she sees the evidence herself, in front of witnesses, she will know the truth. And he will not be able to vanish again. James nodded. It also eliminates his escape route. He will be surrounded. Corporal Bouchard considered this. I will be there in plain clothes, 2 officers on the perimeter. Patricia, you will have the documentation? Everything, Patricia said, including affidavits from the Fong and Drummond families. They have agreed to come forward now that there is physical evidence. I exhaled. Thank you, all of you. The wedding preparations continued as though nothing had changed. Flowers arrived. The tent went up on the lawn where my husband used to walk the orchard rows at sunset. I smiled and played the happy mother of the bride, and every night I collapsed into bed shaking. On September 11th, 3 days before the wedding, his brother arrived. My best man. He introduced him at dinner. Same easy charm, same practiced warmth. He shook my hand and called me Mom, and I wanted to scream. James texted that night. Brother confirmed. Dylan Price. He was with Derek in Victoria during the fraud. There would be 2 arrests. On Wednesday afternoon, I drove to the cemetery. My husband's headstone was simple granite, the way he had wanted it. Robert James Whitfield. 1962, 2022. Engineer, husband, father, builder of good things. I sat on the grass beside him the way I used to sit on our porch while he worked late in his study. I am protecting what you built, I whispered. The orchard, the patents, our daughter. I will not let him destroy it. The mountains across the lake caught the September sun, and for a moment I swore I could hear his voice. You already know what to do, Helen. You have always been the strong one. The wedding morning arrived with a sky so blue it ached. I stood behind my daughter in her childhood bedroom, fastening the tiny buttons on her wedding dress. My hands were steady. My heart was not. Mom, she said suddenly. Her voice cracked. I met her eyes in the mirror. They were filled with terror. I need to tell you something. She turned to face me, white silk rustling. Her hand trembled as she reached into the hidden pocket of her dress and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She pressed it into my palm. I opened it. 4 words in her handwriting. Mom, he's not real. Thursday night, she said, the words tumbling out. I went to his hotel to surprise him. Thought we would have a late dinner before the rehearsal. I got to his door and it was cracked open. I heard him talking to his brother. Tears streaked down her face. Mom, I heard everything. They were laughing about drugging you, about making you look incompetent so he could get control of your finances. He called you the old woman. He said I was too stupid to ever figure it out. And then his brother said something about revenge, about Dad, about destroying everything Dad built. And he laughed. She covered her mouth, sobbing. He laughed about destroying our family. I pulled her into my arms and held her while she shook. I know, sweetheart, I said quietly. I have known for weeks. She pulled back, staring at me. I smoothed her hair the way I used to when she was small and frightened by thunderstorms rolling down the valley. His real name is Derek Price, I said. He is wanted for fraud. He tried to drug me 10 days ago and we caught it on camera. His father's construction company lost a bid to your dad in 2008. His father took his own life in 2010. Derek was 16. He has been planning this for 14 years. My daughter's legs buckled. I helped her sit on the bed, the white dress pooling around her. You knew, she whispered. All this time, you were protecting me. And you were protecting me, I said. We were protecting each other. That is what mothers and daughters do. She looked at the note in my hand, then at me. What do we do now? We walk down that aisle, I said. I will stop the ceremony when the officiant asks if anyone objects. Then we tell every person in that tent who Derek Price really is. She nodded slowly. In front of everyone? In front of 130 witnesses, including the RCMP. My daughter wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders, looked at herself in the mirror. Behind the smeared mascara, I saw the woman she had become. She was her father's daughter. I am ready, she said. At 2:45, we stood at the edge of the lawn where my husband used to walk among the cherry trees. The white tent glowed in the afternoon sun. 130 guests sat in neat rows, murmuring and smiling. He stood at the altar in his perfect suit, his brother beside him. Both of them the picture of charm and success. My daughter slipped her arm through mine. The bouquet of wildflowers from the hillside trembled in her other hand. Ready, sweetheart? I whispered. She squeezed my arm and smiled. A fierce, determined smile. Ready, Mom. The music began and we walked forward together. Every step felt like walking toward the edge of a cliff. 130 faces turned toward us. The flower arch at the altar framed him and his brother against the backdrop of Okanagan Lake, the water impossibly blue, the vineyards rolling up the far hillside. Everything looked the way a wedding should. Beautiful, hopeful, full of promise. Everything was a lie. I scanned the crowd. Corporal Bouchard sat in the fourth row in a summer dress, looking like any other guest. Dr. Singh was in the front, her bag tucked discreetly under her chair. Patricia sat near the aisle, a leather portfolio on her lap. And somewhere beyond the tent, James watched from the shadows. We reached the altar. His smile was radiant as he took my daughter's hand. His brother shifted slightly beside him. The officiant began. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Claire Marie Whitfield and Ethan James Gallagher in marriage. I sat in the front row with my hands folded in my lap and waited. The officiant continued through the traditional words. Love and honor, in sickness and in health. For better or for worse, each phrase scraped against my nerves. Then finally, if anyone present knows of any lawful reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. I stood. The movement was deliberate, loud in the silence. 130 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Stop, I said. My voice carried clearly across the tent. Stop the ceremony. Gasps, whispers. His smile faltered for exactly 1 second before reassembling. Helen, he said, his voice dripping with gentle concern. What are you, my daughter? I said, cutting him off. I turned to her. She stood frozen at the altar, bouquet trembling. Tell them what you heard. My daughter looked at me, then at him, then slowly turned to face the crowd. Thursday night, she said. Her voice shook, but it was clear. I went to his hotel to surprise him. The door was open. I heard him and his brother talking. She spoke louder now, gaining strength with every word. They were discussing how to drug my mother, how to make her seem mentally incompetent so he could apply to the court for control over her finances. He called her the old woman. He said I was too naive to suspect anything. And then his brother mentioned revenge against my father. And he laughed. The crowd erupted in murmurs. People leaned forward. Some stood. Sweetheart, you are panicking, he said, moving toward her. This is wedding anxiety. You have been under so much stress. You misheard. I did not mishear anything, my daughter said, stepping back from him. I heard you laughing about destroying my family. His mask cracked. Just for a second. Then he turned to the crowd with his hands spread in a gesture of helpless concern. I am so sorry you are all witnessing this. She has been under enormous pressure with the wedding, and sometimes anxiety can make Dr. Singh, I called out. Dr. Nadia Singh stood from the front row. Every eye in the tent shifted to her. His face went white. I am Dr. Nadia Singh, she said, addressing the crowd with the calm authority of someone who delivers difficult news for a living. I have been Helen's physician for 9 years. She turned to face him directly. Helen Whitfield is completely lucid. She manages a complex estate, maintains this property, and has never shown a single sign of cognitive decline. So when this man came to my office 5 weeks ago claiming she had memory problems, I knew he was lying. The murmurs grew louder. He asked specific questions, Dr. Singh continued. Which medications impair judgment? How to obtain zopiclone, what the legal process is for having someone declared incapable under British Columbia law. Those are not the questions of a concerned family member. Those are the questions of someone researching how to incapacitate an elderly woman and seize control of her assets. I stood. His name is not Ethan Gallagher, I said. My voice carried across the tent. 130 faces turned to me. His real name is Derek Allen Price. He has an outstanding warrant in British Columbia for fraud. He has been operating under a false identity since 2019. His face had gone gray. His brother looked like he wanted to bolt. His father owned Price Construction, I continued. In 2008, his company competed with my husband Robert's firm for a major civic project in Kamloops. Robert won the contract. Price Construction could not recover. They declared bankruptcy. I paused, letting it settle. Derek's father took his own life in 2010. He left a note blaming my husband. Derek was 16 years old. I saw understanding cross faces in the crowd. This was not just fraud. It was revenge. Derek has been planning this for 14 years, I said. He changed his name. He has done this before. Megan Fong in Calgary, Alyssa Drummond in Sudbury, both daughters of wealthy families, both targeted after losing a parent. Both families paid him to disappear quietly. My daughter stood beside me now, her hand finding mine. 10 days ago, I continued, he came to my home for dinner. When I left the room, he crushed a Zopiclone tablet and stirred it into my water. We have video of every second. We have the lab results confirming the drug and the dosage. We have his fingerprints on the glass, preserved with full chain of custody. Nothing was poured down the sink. Nothing was lost. The crowd erupted. He tried to speak, but his voice had lost all its power. "This is insane," he said. "She is making this up." "She never wanted me to marry." Patricia stood from her seat near the aisle, holding the leather portfolio. "I am Patricia Lawson," she said. "Mrs. Whitfield's estate lawyer. I have complete documentation of everything she has described. Video evidence, laboratory results, medical affidavit. A full background investigation confirming Derek Price's real identity, his criminal record, and evidence linking him to 2 prior cases." She held up the thick stack of documents and USB drives. "This is not a family dispute. This is attempted elder abuse, fraud, identity offenses, and conspiracy. And there are 130 witnesses in this tent who have heard the truth." His mask shattered completely. The charm evaporated. What was left underneath was cold and hard and calculating. "You cannot prove any of this," he said. But his voice shook. "We already have," I said quietly. Corporal Anne-Marie Bouchard stood from her seat in the 4th row. She pulled back her jacket just enough to show the badge and her RCMP identification. "Derek Allen Price," she said, moving toward the altar. "You are under arrest for fraud, identity offenses, uttering a forged document, and administering a noxious substance, as well as an outstanding warrant from the Victoria Detachment. You have the right to retain and instruct counsel without delay." His brother ran. He made it maybe 6 meters before James stepped out from behind the tent and blocked his path. A second officer was there a moment later. They were both handcuffed and led through the crowd of 130 witnesses, past the flower arch, past the rows of white chairs, past the illusion of the perfect wedding they had tried to steal. He was still shouting as they put him in the cruiser. But the door closed, and his voice faded to nothing. My daughter collapsed into my arms, the white dress crumpling between us. "You knew," she sobbed. "You were protecting me. And you were protecting me," I whispered back. We were protecting each other. We sat on the porch steps as the sun set, still in our wedding clothes. Okanagan Lake turned copper and then purple in the fading light. She told me about Thursday night. Standing outside his hotel room door, hearing him laugh about drugging me, about how gullible she was, about the 2 days she had spent in private hell deciding whether to tell me. I told her about the weeks of investigation, about Patricia and James, about Dr. Singh's warning, about the video, the lab results, the evidence bags sealed and labeled. 3 months later, in December, we sat in my husband's garden. The cherry trees were bare. The mountains wore fresh snow. Derek had been sentenced to 4 years in a federal institution. His brother received 2.5. Megan Fong and Alyssa Drummond had both testified. Their stories added weight to the pattern. My daughter had moved back to the ranch temporarily. She was seeing a therapist twice a week. She had started hiking the trails above the lake again. Last week, she had gone for coffee with a teacher from Penticton. Cautious, but healing. I told her about the estate, the full $12.2 million. The trust her father had set up through Patricia to protect her inheritance. The patents still generating income. The investments compounding quietly in Vancouver. "Why didn't you tell me before?" she asked. "Because your father believed money changes people," I said. "He wanted you to build your own life first, to know who you were before you knew what you had." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Do you think Derek's father was a bad person?" "I think he was a man who lost everything and could not see past his own pain," I said. "And he passed that pain to his son instead of helping him heal. Tragedy creating tragedy," she said softly. Yes. What is the point of having money if it just makes people want to hurt you? Money does not buy moments like this, I said, but it buys the safety to protect them. That is the real value of wealth. Not to show off, but to defend what matters. Your father understood that better than anyone I have ever known. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. We sat there as the December afternoon faded. The birds went quiet over the orchard. The first stars appeared above the lake. The ranch house glowed warm behind us, full of my husband's memory, his blueprints, his awards, his coffee mug still on the desk. He was not here, but he was everywhere. And we were safe. We had protected what mattered most, not the money, not the land, each other. Looking back now, I see how close we came to losing everything, not just the money or the property, but each other. If I could go back and speak to the version of myself standing in that kitchen, counting his questions about the orchard, I would say this: do not wait for proof to trust your instincts. I spent weeks gathering evidence when my gut knew the truth from the very first visit. We are given intuition for a reason, to protect the people we love before the danger becomes undeniable. The lesson I learned, the one I pray stays with you, is this. Wealth is not about the numbers in your account. It is about having the resources to defend your family when predators come calling. My husband understood that. He built our life quietly. Not to impress the neighbors, but to create a fortress of safety around the people he loved. Thank God he had the wisdom to set up those trusts, to think ahead, to protect our daughter even after he was gone. Stories like mine happen every day across this country. Elderly women targeted, families manipulated, legacies stolen. The pattern Derek followed is textbook elder financial abuse. If you are watching this and thinking of your own vulnerable loved one, please do not wait the way I did. Age does not make us weak. It makes us targets, unless we are prepared. Love without boundaries invites exploitation. Ask hard questions. Verify identities. Protect assets legally before it is too late. And if you ever feel that gut feeling, that whisper that something is not right, listen to it. It might save your family. If this story helped you recognize red flags or inspired you to protect someone you love, please share it. Subscribe for more stories. And if this style is not for you, that is perfectly okay. Please seek content that fits your needs. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. Protect your people.